Before we begin, drop a comment below with your country and what time it is right now where you're watching. Whether it's sunrise in Nairobi, midnight in New York, afternoon in Canada, or evening in France. I want to know. Don't just sit back. Tell me where in the world you are. Now, let's dive into the story. The security guard's hand clamped around Marin's wrist like a steel trap. She could feel every eye in the marble lobby of Castellan Tower burning into her skin. Her threadbare coat hung from her shoulders, still damp from the morning rain, and her shoes, held together with duct tape, left wet marks on the pristine floor. The wallet in her other hand felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. $3,000. She'd counted it twice in the alley where she'd found it, her fingers trembling so badly she'd dropped 2 of the bills into a puddle. The guard's cologne was expensive, suffocating. His grip tightened. "I'm calling the police," he said, loud enough for the crowd gathering near the elevator to hear. Marin's throat closed. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. She'd walked 7 miles to get here. 7 miles on an empty stomach with blisters forming on her heels where the tape rubbed her skin raw. The address on the driver's license had led her to this gleaming tower in downtown Portland, all glass and steel reaching toward a sky she couldn't see from the streets where she slept. When she'd first spotted the wallet wedged between a dumpster and a brick wall behind the Riverside Hotel, she'd thought it was a miracle. Then she'd opened it. The cash had made her hands shake. The black credit cards with names embossed in silver had made her heart stop. But it was the driver's license that had changed everything. Dorian Castellan, age 42, the face of a man she'd seen on billboards. The man who owned half the city. The lobby smelled like jasmine and money, a scent so foreign to Marin it made her dizzy. Or maybe that was the hunger. She hadn't eaten in 2 days. The guard's radio crackled, and he spoke into it without releasing her wrist. "Code 6 in the main lobby. Possible theft. Subject is..." He paused, his eyes raking over her appearance with undisguised disgust. "Vagrant, female, mid-20s. Marin wanted to explain. She wanted to tell him she'd come to return it, that she'd chosen integrity over $3,000 that could have fed her for months, found her a room, bought her shoes that didn't cut into her feet. But the words stuck in her throat like broken glass. She could see it in his eyes. He'd already decided what kind of person she was. A woman in a cream-colored business suit stepped out of the elevator, her heels clicking against the marble like a countdown. She was beautiful in that polished, untouchable way that Marin had forgotten existed. Her hair was pulled back so tight it looked painful, and her lips were painted the color of wine. She glanced at Marin, then at the guard, her expression shifting from curiosity to cold assessment in less than a second. "What's going on here, Marcus?" Her voice carried authority that made even the guard straighten slightly. He didn't let go of Marin's wrist. "Found her trying to access the private elevator with this." He gestured to the wallet still clutched in Marin's free hand. "Claims she's returning it to Mr. Castellan." The woman's laugh was sharp as breaking ice. "Mr. Castellan doesn't accept visitors, especially not..." She paused, her eyes traveling over Marin's stained coat, her tangled hair, the dirt under her fingernails. "Especially not without an appointment." Marin finally found her voice. It came out smaller than she wanted, cracked from disuse and dehydration. "I found his wallet. I just want to give it back." The words sounded pathetic even to her own ears. The woman's expression didn't change. She reached for the wallet, her manicured fingers extended like she was picking up something contaminated. "I'll make sure he receives it. You can leave now." But Marin's fingers tightened around the leather. Something her mother had said, years ago in their tiny kitchen before everything fell apart, echoed in her mind. Marin girl, when you do the right thing, you do it all the way. No half measures, no shortcuts. The guard's grip became painful. People were staring now, some recording on their phones, others whispering behind their hands. Marin could see her reflection in the polished granite of the reception desk. A ghost of who she used to be, all hollowed cheeks and desperate eyes. She looked like exactly what they thought she was. A thief, a liar, someone who didn't belong in a place like this. The woman's patience was evaporating. Security, escort her out. If she resists, call the police. Marin's heart slammed against her ribs. She'd been arrested twice for sleeping in unauthorized areas. One more strike and she'd face real jail time. But something fierce and stubborn rose in her chest. The same thing that had kept her alive through 2 winters on the streets. Through loss and hunger and nights so cold, she'd thought she wouldn't see morning. No, Marin said, and the word came out stronger than before. The guard's eyebrows shot up. The woman in the cream suit went very still. Marin lifted her chin, meeting those cold eyes directly. I walked 7 miles to return this wallet to Mr. Castellan personally. I'm not giving it to anyone else. I'm not leaving until I see him. The lobby had gone silent. Even the fountain in the corner seemed to pause. The woman's smile was thin and sharp as a blade. Then you'll be here a very long time. She turned on her heel and walked toward the elevator. The guard's radio crackled again, and this time a different voice came through, deep and quiet. Marcus, bring her up. Everyone froze. The woman in cream spun around, her composure cracking just slightly. The guard's hand went slack on Marin's wrist, and Marin felt the world tilt sideways, her empty stomach lurching. The voice on the radio continued. Mr. Castellan will see her now. 6 months earlier, Marin had owned a car. It wasn't much. A 15-year-old Honda with a temperamental engine and seats that smelled faintly of the vanilla air freshener she replaced every month. But it was hers. She'd park it outside the Cedar Grove assisted living facility every morning at 6:30, walk through doors that always stuck slightly in the humidity, and spend her day caring for people who sometimes forgot her name by lunchtime. The work was hard. The pay was barely enough. But Marin had never minded because she understood what it meant to be forgotten, to be invisible, to need someone to see you as human when the world decided you weren't worth noticing anymore. Her mother had taught her that. Rose Thorne had been a hospice nurse for 23 years before the diagnosis. Marin still remembered the day her mother sat her down in their kitchen, the one with the yellow curtains Rose had sewn herself, and explained that the headaches weren't just headaches. The doctors had used words like aggressive and inoperable and 6 months if we're lucky. They'd gotten 8. 8 months of Rose growing smaller, her voice growing softer, her hands losing their steady strength. 8 months of Marin learning to be the caretaker instead of the cared for. 8 months of watching the strongest person she'd ever known fade like watercolor in rain. On the last day, Rose had gripped Marin's hand with surprising force and whispered, "Promise me something, Marin girl. Promise me you'll always choose right over easy. Always." Marin had promised. She'd held that promise like a lifeline, even as the medical bills swallowed her savings, her mother's house, every security she'd ever known. The assisted living facility had been her anchor after Rose died. Mrs. Chen in room 204 liked her scrambled eggs with exactly 3 shakes of pepper. Mr. Okonkwo in 117 needed his newspapers read aloud. Loud because his eyes were failing, but his mind was sharp as ever. Delilah in 209 had no family left and would hold Marin's hand during lunch, her grip desperate and grateful. These small acts of care were how Marin honored her mother's memory. They were how she survived her grief. She'd been good at her job, patient, attentive. The kind of worker who stayed late without being asked, who remembered birthdays and favorite songs. But good didn't matter when the facility changed ownership. The new management company came in with clipboards and efficiency consultants and a mission to streamline operations, which meant firing half the staff and doubling the workload for those who remained. Marin had been let go on a Tuesday. No warning, just a pink slip and a final check that barely covered her rent. She'd sat in her car in the parking lot for an hour, watching the building where she'd poured her heart into caring for people who needed her, the manager who'd fired her. A man named Brent who'd worked there less than a month hadn't even looked her in the eye. He'd shuffled papers and mumbled about budget constraints and nothing personal. It was completely personal. Those were her people in there. Mrs. Chen would wonder where she went. Mr. Okonkwo wouldn't have anyone to read him the sports section. Delilah would eat lunch alone, her hand reaching for someone who wouldn't be there. The thought had made Marin's chest ache so badly, she could barely breathe. She'd tried to find another job. For 6 weeks, she'd applied everywhere. Other care facilities, hospitals, retail stores, restaurants, cleaning services. Her phone had been shut off after 3 weeks when she couldn't pay the bill. Her car had been repossessed after 5 when she'd missed 2 payments. The eviction notice came in week 6, taped to the door of the studio apartment she'd moved into after selling her mother's house to pay medical debt. 30 days to vacate. She'd had nowhere to go, no family. The few friends she'd had before her mother's illness had drifted away during those 8 months of caregiving, uncomfortable with her grief, unable to understand why she couldn't just move on. Marin had learned that tragedy reveals who people really are. Most people prefer comfort to loyalty. The first night on the street, she'd cried until her throat was raw. She'd hidden in the doorway of a closed bookstore, her belongings stuffed into a backpack and 2 garbage bags, and wondered how her life had collapsed so completely. She was 26 years old. She'd done everything right, worked hard, saved money, cared for her dying mother with devotion that had cost her everything. And still she'd ended up here, invisible to the people stepping over her feet, worthless to a system that measured human value in profit margins and productivity. But she'd survived. Week after week, month after month, she'd survived. She'd learned which shelters had the shortest lines, which soup kitchens served on which days, where to find bathrooms that didn't require a key, how to avoid the dangerous streets after dark, how to make herself small and unnoticeable. She'd learned that hunger becomes a constant companion, that you stop fighting and start accommodating. She'd learned that cold seeps into your bones and never fully leaves. She'd learned that most people look through you rather than at you, and that invisibility is its own kind of death. But through it all, she'd held on to her mother's words. Choose right over easy, always. Even when right meant going hungry to avoid stealing. Even when easy would have been to give up. That promise had kept her human when everything else tried to strip her humanity away. And that promise was why, when she found a wallet containing $3,000 and the identity of one of the richest men in Portland, she'd known exactly what she had to do, no matter the cost. The elevator was lined with mirrors, and Marin couldn't escape her reflection. 3 of her stared back from different angles, a stranger with sunken eyes and hair that hadn't been properly washed in weeks. The guard, Marcus, stood in the corner, his hand resting on the radio at his belt. He hadn't said a word since they'd entered. The elevator climbed silently, the only sound the whisper of expensive machinery and Marin's own breathing, too loud in the enclosed space. She tried to steady it, tried to ignore the way her empty stomach churned and twisted. The numbers above the door kept rising. 20, 30, 40. How high did this building go? She'd never been anywhere like this. Even before homelessness, her world had been small. Her mother's house, the assisted living facility, the grocery store 3 blocks from her apartment. She'd never needed luxury, never wanted it. But standing here now, she felt the weight of every choice that had led to this moment. The wallet was still in her hand, the leather worn smooth in places where Dorian Castellan's fingers had touched it repeatedly over the years. She'd examined it thoroughly in the alley, not to steal. She'd never considered that, not really. But to understand who she was returning it to. Inside were the $3,000 in crisp hundreds, 5 credit cards that probably had no limit, a driver's license with a photo that made him look stern and untouchable, and a single photograph tucked behind everything else. The photo had surprised her. It showed a little girl, maybe 7 or 8 years old, with dark curls and a gap-toothed smile. She was sitting on a swing, frozen mid-laugh, joy radiating from every pixel. Marin had stared at that photo for a long time, wondering what kind of man carried a picture like that, wondering if he was a father, wondering if that little girl knew how lucky she was. The elevator slowed at floor 52. The doors opened onto a hallway that looked like it belonged in a museum. The floors were dark hardwood, polished to a mirror shine. Original artwork hung on cream-colored walls. Marin didn't know much about art, but even she could tell these weren't prints. Crystal sconces cast warm light that somehow made her look even more out of place. Marcus gestured for her to follow. Her shoes squeaked against the perfect floor, leaving faint wet marks from the rain that had soaked through the duct tape hours ago. She wanted to apologize for the marks, for existing in this space where she clearly didn't belong. But Marcus was already knocking on massive double doors at the end of the hall. A voice from inside, the same one from the radio, called out, "Come in." The office beyond those doors stole Marin's breath. Floor-to-ceiling windows made up the entire far wall, offering a view of Portland that seemed to stretch to the end of the world. The city sprawled below in miniature, buildings and bridges and the Willamette River cutting through it all like a silver ribbon. She could see Powell's books from here, the rooftop where she'd slept last week until security chased her off. She could see the park where she'd met a woman named Sandra, who'd shared half a sandwich and told Marin about the soup kitchen on Morrison Street. Her entire world, spread out like a map, looking almost beautiful from this height, almost peaceful. You couldn't see the suffering from up here. You couldn't see the people huddled in doorways, or the desperation carved into faces, or the way hope died a little more each day. "Thank you, Marcus. You can wait outside." The voice pulled Marin's attention from the window. Dorian Castellan stood behind a desk that probably cost more than Marin had earned in her entire life. He was taller than she'd expected, his shoulders broad beneath a charcoal suit that fit him like it had been painted on. His hair was dark with silver threading through at the temples, and his eyes, she thought they'd be cold, calculating, the eyes of a man who'd built an empire. Instead, they were watching her with something that looked almost like curiosity. Marcus hesitated. "Sir, are you certain you want to be alone with—" "I'm certain, Marcus." The door closed with a soft click. Marin and Dorian Castellan were alone. The silence stretched between them like a living thing. Marin's fingers tightened on the wallet. She could feel her heartbeat in her throat, in her fingertips, in the pulse at her wrists. This was a mistake. She should have given it to the woman in cream. Should have left it at the desk downstairs. Should have... "You walked 7 miles to return my wallet." It wasn't a question. Marin nodded, not trusting her voice. Dorian moved around the desk, each step deliberate and measured. He stopped a few feet away from her, close enough that she could smell his cologne. Something woody and expensive that made her hyper-aware of how she must smell after sleeping in an alley, after weeks without proper hygiene, after the rain had soaked through her clothes. She wanted to disappear, wanted the floor to open up and swallow her. But his eyes weren't cruel. They weren't pitying either, which was almost worse. They were simply looking, really looking, like she was a person worth seeing. My staff tells me you refused to hand over my wallet to anyone but me, that you insisted on returning it personally. Dorian's voice was quiet, measured. Why? The question hung in the air between them. Marin swallowed hard, her throat dry as sand. When she spoke, her voice came out barely above a whisper. Because my mother taught me that when you do the right thing, you do it all the way. No shortcuts. She held out the wallet, her hand trembling despite her effort to keep it steady. I counted it to make sure everything was there. $3,000, 5 credit cards, your driver's license, and a photo of a little girl. Dorian took the wallet slowly, his fingers brushing hers for just a second. His hands were warm. Hers were ice cold, always cold now. He opened the wallet, checked the contents with quick efficiency, then looked up at her with an expression she couldn't read. You could have kept this. $3,000 would change your life. I know, Marin said, but it wouldn't be mine to keep. Something shifted in his expression. What's your name? Marin. Marin Thorne. Well, Marin Thorne, Dorian said. And there was something in his voice now, something sharp and purposeful. I think we need to have a conversation. Dorian gestured to a leather chair positioned near the window. Marin hesitated, hyper-aware of her filthy clothes, the smell that probably clung to her, the way she'd contaminate expensive leather that had never known dirt. But his expression left no room for argument. She sat, perching on the edge like a bird ready to flee, and the chair was so soft it made her want to cry. She couldn't remember the last time she'd sat on something that didn't hurt. Dorian moved to a sidebar, where crystal decanters caught the afternoon light and poured water into a glass. He handed it to her without comment. Marin stared at it. The glass was heavy, real crystal, probably worth more than she'd earned in a month at the assisted living facility. Her hands shook as she raised it to her lips. The water was cold and clean, and she had to fight the urge to gulp it down like an animal. She sipped instead, small, careful sips, while Dorian settled into the chair across from her. I'm going to tell you a story, Marin, he began, his eyes never leaving her face. 3 months ago, I was meeting with a potential business partner, a man who came highly recommended, impressive credentials, connections in every major market. We were discussing a deal worth $40 million. He paused, leaning back in his chair with the easy confidence of someone who'd never doubted his place in the world. During our meeting, he excused himself to take a call. When he came back, he mentioned in passing that he'd seen a homeless man outside the restaurant, and he'd called security to have him removed. Said it was bad for business, seeing people like that near the entrance. Marin's chest tightened. She knew where this was going. She'd been that homeless person too many times to count. Dorian continued. I asked him what the man had been doing. Was he aggressive, harassing customers? He shook his head. No, just sitting, existing, taking up space that my potential partner felt belonged to people who could afford to be there. The water in Marin's glass rippled slightly from her trembling hands. She set it down on the side table before she could spill it. Dorian's expression had gone cold, distant. I canceled the deal. $40 million gone because I learned everything I needed to know about that man's character in a single sentence. He saw a human being as a problem to be removed rather than a person who might need help. The room felt very quiet. Outside, the city continued its relentless motion, cars and people and commerce flowing like blood through veins. But in here, time seemed suspended. Dorian leaned forward, elbows on his knees, his gaze intense. Do you know what separates successful people from truly great ones, Marin? It's not intelligence or education or even opportunity. It's character. It's the choices you make when no one's watching, when there's no reward, when doing the right thing costs you everything. Marin felt something cold slide down her spine. The way he was looking at her, the way he'd told that story, this wasn't random. This was intentional, carefully constructed. Her mother's voice echoed in her mind, a warning from years ago when Marin had been young and naive. Baby girl, rich people don't do anything without a reason. Every word is a chess move. She met Dorian's eyes directly. You dropped that wallet on purpose. It wasn't a question. The corner of his mouth lifted slightly, not quite a smile. Very perceptive. Anger flared hot in Marin's chest, burning away the fear and exhaustion. She stood, her legs shaky but her voice steady. This was a test. You tested me. She couldn't finish. The betrayal was too sharp, too unexpected. She'd suffered 7 miles of walking on bleeding feet, hunger that made her dizzy, humiliation at the hands of his security guard and that woman in cream. All for what? So some billionaire could play games? Sit down, Marin. Dorian's voice was calm but firm. Please. Why? The word came out sharp as breaking glass. Why would you do that? Do you have any idea what $3,000 means to someone like me? Do you know what I could have done with that money? I could have eaten. I could have found shelter. I could have... Her voice cracked, and she hated herself for it. Hated him for witnessing her breakdown. Hated the whole sick world that turned survival into a game for the wealthy. Dorian stood slowly, his expression unreadable. I know exactly what $3,000 means. And I know exactly how rare it is to find someone who would walk 7 miles to return it instead of keeping it. That's why I needed to know if the stories were true. Marin froze. Stories? What stories? 6 months ago, a friend of mine was at Cedar Grove Assisted Living visiting his mother. He told me about a nurse there who'd stayed late every single night to read to his mother, even though visiting hours were over, even though she wasn't being paid for the extra time. He said his mother, who had advanced dementia and barely recognized her own family, would light up whenever this nurse walked into the room. He described a young woman with extraordinary compassion who treated every resident like they mattered, like they were still fully human even when their minds were failing. Dorian pulled his phone from his pocket, tapped the screen a few times, then turned it to face her. Marin's breath caught. It was her. A photo someone had taken at Cedar Grove without her knowledge, showing her sitting beside Mrs. Chen, both of them laughing at something. She remembered that day. Mrs. Chen had told a story about her childhood in Taiwan, about stealing fruit from a neighbor's tree, and they'd both dissolved into giggles. After Cedar Grove laid you off, Dorian continued, sliding his phone back into his pocket, my friend tried to find you. He wanted to offer you a position at a private care facility he owns, better pay, better conditions. But you'd already disappeared. No phone, no forwarding address, no trace. Marin's legs gave out. She sank back into the chair, her mind reeling. Someone had been looking for her. While she'd been sleeping in doorways and digging through trash for food, someone had been trying to find her to offer her a job. A lifeline she'd never known existed. The cruelty of timing made her want to scream. Dorian crouched down so they were eye level. "I've been dropping that wallet in different locations throughout the city for 2 months, Marin. 14 times. 12 people kept it. 2 people returned it to Lost and Found, but wouldn't leave their names. You're the first person who insisted on returning it directly. The first person who walked 7 miles on an empty stomach to do the right thing when keeping it would have been so easy." "Why?" Marin whispered. "Why does it matter to you?" "Because I'm building something," Dorian said quietly. "A foundation. A program designed to help people who've fallen through the cracks. People the system has failed. People like you. But I can't trust just anyone to run it. I need someone who understands what it means to lose everything and still choose integrity. Someone who knows what it's like to be invisible and still sees others. Someone whose character has been tested by fire and came out unbroken." He stood extending his hand to her. "I'm offering you a job, Marin Thorne. Director of Operations for the Castellan Hope Foundation. Salary, benefits, housing, and the resources to help people the way you helped those residents at Cedar Grove. The way you helped me today by proving that goodness still exists." Marin stared at his hand, unable to process the words. This couldn't be real. Things like this didn't happen. Not to people like her. Not to the invisible, the forgotten, the ones society discarded. But Dorian's hand remained extended, steady and sure, waiting for her answer. Marin didn't take his hand. Not immediately. She sat there, breathing through the panic rising in her chest like floodwater, trying to find the trick hidden in his words. Because there had to be a trick. People didn't go from homeless to director of anything in a single conversation. They didn't leap from bleeding feet and empty stomachs to salary and housing and purpose. That wasn't how the world worked. Not her world, anyway. Her world was slow starvation and constant rejection. Doors closing before she could knock. Opportunities that evaporated like morning dew the moment she reached for them. Her world had taught her that hope was dangerous. That believing in sudden salvation was a fool's game. So she looked at Dorian Castellan with every ounce of skepticism she'd earned through 6 months of hell and asked the question burning in her throat. "What do you really want from me?" Something flickered in his eyes, surprise maybe, or respect. He lowered his hand slowly, not offended, just patient. "That's a fair question. You've learned not to trust easy answers." He moved back to his desk, pulled open a drawer, and removed a folder thick with papers. When he returned and handed it to her, Marin's hands left smudges on the manila surface. Inside were contracts, organizational charts, mission statements, budgets that made her head spin with their zeros. The Castellan Hope Foundation. She scanned the documents, her reading slowed by exhaustion and disbelief. The Foundation's mission was outlined in clear language: to provide comprehensive support for individuals experiencing homelessness. Not just shelter and food, but job training, mental health services, addiction treatment, reconnection with family, legal advocacy, and long-term housing solutions. It was everything the system failed to provide. Everything Marin had desperately needed and never found. "I lost my daughter 8 years ago," Dorian said quietly, and Marin's eyes snapped up from the papers. His face had changed, the careful control slipping just enough to reveal old grief etched deep. "Elena. She was 7. That photo in my wallet. That's her." Marin remembered the gap-toothed smile, the joy frozen in time. heart constricted. "There was an accident," he continued, his voice steady but hollow in the way of someone who'd told this story before, who'd learned to speak around the pain. "A drunk driver. Elena died instantly. My wife, Sophia, survived, but..." He paused, choosing his words carefully. Grief breaks people in different ways. For Sophia, it broke something essential. She couldn't be in our house anymore. Couldn't see Elena's room or her toys or any reminder of what we'd lost. She left. Filed for divorce 6 months later. Last I heard, she was living in Barcelona, teaching yoga, trying to build a life that didn't include the memory of our daughter. The office felt smaller suddenly, weighted with confession. Marin clutched the folder, not knowing what to say. What could anyone say to grief that massive? Dorian walked to the window, his back to her, his shoulders tight. After Elena died, I threw myself into work. Built this empire out of rage and denial and the need to feel like I had control over something. I was ruthless. Brilliant, people said, but empty. Completely hollow. He turned to face her, and in the afternoon light, Marin could see the lines around his eyes, the silver in his hair, the weight of years lived in survival mode. Then, 3 years ago, I was walking to a business dinner, and I saw a man collapsed on the sidewalk. Everyone was stepping around him, not stepping over. That would require acknowledging he existed. Just flowing around him like water around a stone. I stopped, called an ambulance, waited with him until it arrived. The paramedics told me he'd been there for hours, Dorian said. Hours. In a city full of people, not one person had stopped to help. When they loaded him into the ambulance, he grabbed my hand and said, "Thank you for seeing me, for remembering I'm human." His jaw tightened. That's when I realized I'd become exactly like everyone else. Walking past suffering because it was inconvenient. Because acknowledging it meant having to care, having to act, having to give up some of my comfortable distance from the world's pain. He crossed back to where Marin sat, his eyes intense. I started researching homelessness, poverty, systemic failure. The more I learned, the angrier I got. Not at the people suffering, at the systems that created and perpetuated that suffering. At the way we as a society have decided that some people matter and others don't. Marin's throat was tight. She knew that rage, had felt it burning in her chest during countless sleepless nights when the cold seeped into her bones, and she wondered why no one cared. Why the world could just keep spinning while people like her vanished into invisibility. Dorian knelt down again, his face level with hers. I've spent 2 years building this foundation, hiring the right people, developing programs that actually work, not just feel-good initiatives that look impressive in press releases, but accomplish nothing. I've partnered with psychologists and social workers and formerly homeless individuals who understand the system from the inside. But I've been missing one crucial element. He paused, letting the weight of his next words settle. I've been missing someone who's lived it, recently. Someone who knows exactly what it feels like to be where you are right now. Someone whose compassion hasn't been theorized or studied, but earned through experience. I don't have any qualifications, Marin whispered. I'm not a social worker or a counselor or... You have the only qualification that matters, Dorian interrupted. You have empathy forged in the same fire the people we're trying to help are burning in right now. You walked 7 miles on bleeding feet to return money you desperately needed because your mother taught you integrity matters more than survival. That's not something that can be taught in any classroom or earned with any degree. That's character. And character is what I need. Marin looked down at the folder in her lap, at the mission statement and budgets and organizational charts. She thought about Mrs. Chen and Mr. Okonkwo and Delilah, about all the people she'd cared for who needed someone to see them as fully human. She thought about Sandra in the park, who'd shared half a sandwich. About the man who'd slept near her in a doorway downtown and had warned her which streets to avoid at night. About all the invisible people she had met in 6 months who deserved so much more than society was willing to give them. "If I say yes," Marin said slowly, her voice gaining strength, "I need you to understand something. I won't be your token homeless person. I won't be the inspiring story you trot out for donors. I won't smile and nod while you make decisions that sound good but don't actually help." She lifted her eyes to meet his, and she didn't care that she was dirty and hungry and completely out of her depth. She'd survived 6 months on the street. She could survive this. If I do this, I do it my way, with real solutions, real dignity, real change, or I walk right now. For a long moment, Dorian just looked at her. Then, slowly, he smiled, a real smile that transformed his entire face. "Marin Thorne," he said, extending his hand again. "I wouldn't want it in any other way." This time, she took his hand, and as his warm fingers closed around her cold ones, Marin felt something she hadn't felt in so long. She'd forgotten what it was called. Hope. The apartment Dorian provided wasn't a palace, but to Marin it might as well have been heaven. 1 bedroom in a building 3 blocks from the Foundation's office, with windows that actually closed all the way and heat that worked, and a bathroom with a shower where water came out hot and endless. He'd given her a key and an envelope with $2,000 for immediate needs. Told her to take 3 days to settle in before coming to the office, and left her standing in the doorway, unable to move. She'd stood there for 20 minutes, just breathing, afraid that if she blinked, it would all disappear like smoke. The first thing she did was shower. She stood under water so hot, it turned her skin pink, washing away 6 months of accumulated dirt and shame and defeat. The soap smelled like lavender. She used it 3 times, scrubbing until her skin was raw and clean. Her hair took even longer, detangling months of neglect, watching the water run brown, then gray, then finally clear. When she emerged, wrapped in a towel softer than anything she'd ever touched, she caught her reflection in the mirror and barely recognized herself. Without the layers of grime, she could see her face again. The cheekbones too sharp from hunger. The shadows under her eyes like bruises. The way her collarbones jutted out, stark reminders of every missed meal. But her eyes were still her mother's eyes. Still that same amber brown that Rose used to say looked like honey in sunlight. Still alive despite everything that had tried to kill the light in them. Marin pressed her palm against the mirror, her clean hand against her clean reflection, and let herself cry. Not sad tears, not happy tears. Just release. 6 months of holding everything together, of staying strong because falling apart meant dying, of swallowing every emotion because survival required focus. It all came pouring out in great shaking sobs that left her gasping. She cried for her mother, for the life she'd lost, for every night she'd slept cold and afraid, for every moment she'd felt invisible, worthless, forgotten. And then, finally, she cried in relief. The next morning, Marin went shopping. The $2,000 felt obscene in her pocket, more money than she'd seen in one place since her mother's death. She walked into a department store that 3 days ago would have had security follow her to make sure she didn't steal anything, and she bought clothes. Real clothes. Not thrift store finds or donations. Jeans that fit. Shirts that didn't have holes, a winter coat that was actually warm, underwear and socks and shoes. God, shoes that didn't hurt, that didn't have duct tape holding them together. The saleswoman who helped her was kind, probably because Maren looked normal now, clean and acceptable. Just another customer instead of a problem to be solved. Maren wondered if the woman would have been as kind 3 days ago and suspected she knew the answer. On her way back to the apartment, arms full of bags, Maren saw a man sitting against a building with a cardboard sign that read, "Hungry. Anything helps." She stopped. Their eyes met. She saw herself in his face. That same exhaustion, that same defeated hope that someone might care. Maren set down her bags, pulled out her wallet, and gave him $200. His eyes went wide. "Miss, this is too much." "It's exactly enough," Maren said quietly. "There's a shelter on Morrison Street that serves dinner at 6. The caseworker there, her name is Patricia. Tell her Maren sent you. She'll help you." She wanted to do more, wanted to fix everything right then, but she couldn't. Not yet. So she squeezed his shoulder, picked up her bags, and kept walking. The weight of $200 lighter. The weight of her purpose heavier. That night, she lay in a real bed for the first time in 6 months and couldn't sleep. The mattress was too soft. The room too quiet. She was too aware of the walls around her, the ceiling above her, the way the darkness felt contained instead of infinite. On the street, she'd learned to sleep light, always half aware, ready to wake at any sound that meant danger. Safety was a skill she'd forgotten. She got up, made tea in her own kitchen with her own kettle, and sat by the window watching the city. From up here, on the 8th floor, Portland looked different than it had from ground level. The lights were beautiful, gold and white and red streaming through streets in patterns that seemed almost choreographed. But Maren knew the truth hiding in that beauty. She knew which doorways sheltered sleeping people, which alleys were dangerous after dark, which bridges became temporary homes when the rain got too heavy for those who had nowhere else to go. She thought about the man she'd given $200 to and wondered if he'd make it to the shelter, wondered how many people were out there, right now, invisible to a city that had decided not to see them, wondered how many had mothers who'd taught them integrity, who'd loved them, who'd believed they'd grow up to do great things, never imagining they'd end up forgotten on cold pavement. The foundation was supposed to change that. Maren's job was supposed to make a difference. But sitting there at 3 in the morning, looking out at a city that had tried to kill her, she felt the weight of impossibility. How could one foundation, one program, one person fix a problem so vast it swallowed thousands of people every day? "You can't save everyone, Maren girl," her mother's voice whispered in her memory. It was something Rose had said during her hospice work, when Maren was young and idealistic and wanted her mother to cure every patient. "You can't save everyone, but you can save someone. And that someone is somebody's entire world." Maren pressed her forehead against the cool glass of the window. She couldn't save everyone, but she could try. She could build something that gave people what she'd almost lost: dignity, hope, a second chance. She could make sure that when someone fell through the cracks, there was a safety net waiting instead of concrete. She could look at the invisible people and see them, really see them, the way she'd needed to be seen. 3 days later, when Maren walked into the Castellan Foundation office for her first day of work, she wore her new clothes and her new shoes and carried her mother's memory like armor. She was ready to fight for the forgotten, ready to prove that compassion could be systematic, that kindness could be powerful, that doing the right thing could change the world, or at least change it for someone, and that someone would be somebody's entire world. The foundation office was not what Marin expected. She'd imagined something cold and corporate, all glass and steel like Dorian's tower. Instead, she walked into a converted warehouse in southeast Portland, where exposed brick walls were painted with murals of hands reaching toward each other, where natural light poured through skylights, and where the reception area had comfortable couches instead of sterile waiting chairs. A woman in her 50s looked up from the front desk, her face lighting up with a smile that reached her eyes. "You must be Marin. I'm Patricia Osei. Welcome." Patricia. The same Patricia Marin had mentioned to the man with the cardboard sign, the caseworker at the Morrison Street shelter. Marin blinked in surprise. "You work here too?" "Just started 3 weeks ago," Patricia said, coming around the desk to shake Marin's hand. Her grip was firm, her hands weathered but warm. "Mr. Castellan recruited me, said he wanted people who'd been in the trenches, who understood the work from the ground up. When he offered me twice my shelter salary and the resources to actually help people instead of just processing them through a broken system, I couldn't refuse." Patricia led Marin down a hallway lined with photographs, not stock photos of smiling people, but real images. A man in a suit shaking hands with his new employer. A woman standing in front of her first apartment holding keys. A teenager at a graduation ceremony. Each photo had a small plaque beneath it with a name and date. "These are our success stories," Patricia explained. "Every person we've helped transition from homelessness to stability. We're only 2 years old, but we've already changed 43 lives. 43 lives. 43 people who'd been where Marin was 3 days ago, who'd been given the same second chance she was receiving now. The weight of it settled on her shoulders like a mantle." Patricia stopped at a door marked Director of Operations and pushed it open. The office inside was modest but filled with light. A desk with a new computer, bookshelves waiting to be filled, a window overlooking the street where Marin could see people walking past, some hurrying to work, some pushing shopping carts filled with their entire lives. A reminder of why she was here. "Dorian wanted you to have space to make this yours," Patricia said. "But first, he asked me to give you the tour and introduce you to the team." The team turned out to be 12 people, each with their own story of how they'd ended up at the foundation. Marcus Chen had been a social worker for 15 years, burned out by bureaucracy until Dorian offered him the chance to design programs without red tape strangling every initiative. Keisha Williams was a psychologist specializing in trauma who'd lost her own brother to addiction and homelessness. James Porter had spent 3 years on the street after a work accident left him disabled and unemployed. And now he ran the foundation's job training programs with the fierce dedication of someone who knew exactly what was at stake. Every single person on staff had either experienced homelessness personally or had been touched by it deeply enough to understand that the people they served weren't statistics or charity cases, but human beings deserving of dignity and respect. As Marin met each team member, listening to their stories and their passion, she felt something unfamiliar stirring in her chest. Belonging, purpose, the sense that she'd found her people. The morning ended in the conference room where Dorian was waiting, dressed more casually than he'd been in his office. Jeans and a button-down shirt, sleeves rolled to his elbows. He looked younger like this, less intimidating, more human. "Marin," he greeted, gesturing to a chair at the head of the table. "I'm glad you're here. We have a lot to discuss." For the next 3 hours, Dorian walked her through every aspect of the foundation's work. the emergency shelter program that provided immediate housing and basic needs, the mental health services offered free of charge by a team of volunteer therapists, the job training and placement program that connected people with employers willing to hire without judgment, the legal advocacy that helped people navigate the bureaucratic nightmare of accessing benefits and services, the family reunification program that worked to rebuild connections severed by addiction or mental illness or simple distance. It was comprehensive, thoughtful, built on actual research and input from people who'd lived through homelessness rather than academics who'd only studied it from a distance. But as impressive as it was, Maren could see the gaps, the things missing that she desperately needed during her 6 months on the street. "What about medical care?" she asked, interrupting Dorian mid-sentence. "A lot of people on the street have chronic conditions that go untreated. Infections, diabetes, dental problems so severe they can't eat solid food. You can't hold down a job interview if you're in constant pain or if your teeth are rotting out of your head." Dorian leaned back in his chair, studying her. "We have partnerships with free clinics, but you're right. It's not enough." "What else?" "Transportation," Maren continued, her confidence growing. "You can't get to a job interview if you can't afford bus fare. You can't maintain employment if you're spending 2 hours walking to work because you don't have money for transit. And clothes. Not just any clothes, but interview clothes, work clothes, the kind that make you look like you belong." She was on a roll now. 6 months of observation and frustration pouring out. "And mail. Do you know how impossible it is to get a job or apply for benefits when you don't have a mailing address? Everything requires an address. Everything. So you're automatically disqualified from opportunities because you're homeless, which keeps you homeless. It's a trap." Dorian was taking notes on his tablet, his fingers flying across the screen. "What else? Don't hold back." "Childcare," Maren said, thinking of the women she'd met who'd lost custody of their kids, or who were hiding their children to avoid them being taken into the system. "Single parents can't work if they can't afford childcare. But they can't afford childcare if they don't have work. And education, GED programs, vocational training, college support for people who want to build careers instead of just taking any job that will hire them." She paused, her throat tight with emotion. "And dignity. That's the biggest gap. Every other program I encountered while I was on the street treated us like problems to be managed or numbers to be processed. Like we were less than human because we didn't have homes. Your foundation is better than that, but it could be even better. We need to treat people like they're already worthy of respect, not like they have to earn it by proving they're deserving enough." The room was silent. Maren realized she'd been gesturing wildly, her voice rising with passion, basically lecturing a billionaire on how to run his foundation. On her first day of work, she opened her mouth to apologize. "That," Dorian said before she could speak, "is exactly why you're sitting in that chair. Everything you just said, that's your job. Figure out how to fill those gaps. You have full authority to develop new programs, hire staff, allocate resources. I'll handle fundraising and partnerships. You handle the vision and execution." Maren stared at him. "You're serious? Completely serious. The foundation has a $10 million annual budget. That's your budget now. Spend it wisely, spend it well. But spend it on making sure that no one who comes to us for help leaves feeling invisible or worthless or like they're a burden society would rather discard." He stood, extending his hand across the table. "Welcome to the team, Director Thorne. Now go change some lives." 3 months into her position, Marin had developed a rhythm. She arrived at the office at 7 every morning and rarely left before 8 at night. She'd implemented new programs, a mobile medical clinic that brought healthcare directly to encampments, a clothing bank specifically for professional attire, a partnership with the transit authority to provide free bus passes. She'd hired 2 new caseworkers, both formerly homeless themselves. She'd personally met with every single person who came through their doors, learning their stories, understanding their needs, refusing to let anyone become just a file number. The team respected her. The clients trusted her. The foundation's success rate had jumped from 43 people housed in 2 years to 67 people housed in 3 months. Dorian had called her a miracle worker. But miracles came at a price, and Marin was paying it in pieces of herself she didn't know she still had to give. She wasn't sleeping. Not really. She'd lie in her apartment staring at the ceiling, her mind racing through case files and budgets and the faces of people she couldn't help fast enough. There was never enough money, enough staff, enough time, enough resources. For every person they housed, 10 more showed up desperate for assistance. For every success story, there were 3 failures. People who fell back into addiction, who disappeared from the program, who couldn't overcome the trauma that homelessness had carved into their psyches. The breaking point came on a Tuesday in February. Marin was in her office reviewing applications for the job training program when Patricia knocked on her door, her usual warm smile missing. "Marin, there's someone here to see you. She's asking for you specifically." The woman waiting in the reception area was probably in her 30s, though homelessness had aged her the way it aged everyone, adding years to faces, stealing vitality, leaving behind exhaustion and weariness. She clutched a garbage bag that held what Marin knew was probably everything she owned. But it was her eyes that made Marin's breath catch, hollow, defeated. The same eyes Marin had seen in her own reflection 6 months ago. "Are you Marin Thorne?" the woman asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Yes. Please sit down. What's your name?" "Claudia. Claudia Reeves." She perched on the edge of the couch, clutching her garbage bag like it might be stolen. "I heard about this place from someone at the shelter. They said you actually help people, that you were homeless too, so you understand." Marin's chest tightened. "I do understand. Tell me what's going on." Claudia's story spilled out in fragments. She'd been a teacher, married, had a house, a career, a normal life. Then her husband developed cancer. The medical bills had been catastrophic even with insurance. They'd lost the house. He died 6 months later, leaving Claudia with crushing debt and grief so overwhelming she couldn't function. She'd lost her teaching job, lost her car, lost everything until she ended up on the street 3 months ago. "I have a daughter," Claudia whispered, and Marin's heart stopped. "She's 12. My sister has her right now, but she's moving out of state next month, and I can't." She broke down, sobs shaking her thin shoulders. "If I don't find housing and employment before then, they're going to put my daughter in foster care. I'll lose her. She's all I have left of him, all I have left of my life. And I'm going to lose her because I can't get it together fast enough." Marin moved to sit beside Claudia, taking her hand. The woman's fingers were ice cold, trembling. "How long until your sister moves?" 3 weeks. 3 weeks. It wasn't enough time. Even with all their programs, even with Marin's determination, 3 weeks wasn't enough to find housing, secure employment, navigate the bureaucracy of child custody, and prove to the state that Claudia was stable enough to have her daughter back. It was impossible. But Marin looked into Claudia's desperate eyes, and heard herself say, "We'll figure it out. I promise you, we'll figure it out." The next 3 weeks became a blur of phone calls and favors and pulling every string Marin had. She connected Claudia with the mental health team to address the trauma and grief. She fast-tracked her into the housing program, calling in a favor from a landlord who owed the foundation. She personally coached Claudia through job interviews, using her own experience to help the woman present herself as capable, despite the gap in her employment history. She sat with Claudia through meetings with child services, advocating, explaining, sometimes just holding her hand when the bureaucracy became too much. And somehow, impossibly, it worked. 2.5 weeks after Claudia walked into the foundation, she signed a lease on a 1-bedroom apartment. 3 days later, she started work as a teacher's aide at an elementary school. Not her old career, but a step in the right direction. And when child services did their final evaluation, they approved Claudia to have her daughter back. Marin was there when Claudia's daughter arrived, a quiet 12-year-old with her mother's eyes and a backpack covered in patches. She watched Claudia drop to her knees and wrap her arms around the girl, both of them crying, both of them holding on like they'd never let go. She watched a family knit itself back together right there in the foundation's lobby, watched hope replace despair in real time. And then Marin went back to her office, closed the door, and fell apart. She collapsed into her chair, her whole body shaking with sobs she couldn't control. She cried for Claudia and her daughter, for her own mother, gone too soon, for every person sitting in some doorway right now, wondering if tomorrow would come, for the weight of knowing she'd saved one family, but there were thousands more she couldn't reach fast enough. The door opened. Dorian stepped in without knocking, took one look at her, and crossed the room in 3 strides. He didn't say anything, just pulled a chair next to hers and sat, his presence solid and steady while she cried herself empty. When she finally had no tears left, Marin wiped her face with shaking hands. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't." "Stop," Dorian said quietly. "You just performed a miracle for that woman and her child. You're allowed to feel the weight of it." "There are so many more," Marin whispered. "Every day, more people come, and I can't save them all. I can't work fast enough. Can't stretch the resources far enough. It's never enough." "No," Dorian agreed. "It's never enough. That's the nature of this work. You'll save some and lose some, and the ones you lose will haunt you. But Marin," he waited until she met his eyes, "the ones you save, you're their entire world, and that matters. It always matters." Marin nodded, because she knew he was right, but knowing something and feeling it were different things. And right now all she could feel was the impossible weight of need pressing down on her from all sides. Dorian stood, moved to her window, looked out at the street below. "I'm doubling the foundation's budget," he said. $20 million a year instead of 10. We're opening a second location, and I'm hiring 2 assistant directors to support you, so you're not carrying this entire operation alone. Marin's head snapped up. "Dorian, you were right about everything you said on your first day. Medical care, child care, education, dignity. We're going to provide all of it. We're going to build something so comprehensive that people like Claudia don't have to scramble in 3 weeks. We're going to change the entire system." He turned to face her, his expression intense. "But I need you to promise me something. Promise me you won't burn yourself out trying to save everyone. Promise me you'll take care of yourself too. Because this foundation doesn't work without you. And I won't watch you destroy yourself trying to fix a world that broke long before you got here." Marin wanted to argue, wanted to say she was fine, she could handle it, she didn't need help. But the words died in her throat because they were lies. She did need help. She was burning out. And if she didn't learn to pace herself, she'd be no good to anyone. "I promise," she whispered. Dorian smiled. "Good. Now go home. Sleep. Take tomorrow off. When you come back, we'll start building something even bigger." Marin went home. She slept for 14 hours straight. And when she woke up, she felt something she hadn't felt in weeks. Ready. 6 months after starting at the foundation, Marin stood outside Cedar Grove Assisted Living for the first time since being fired. Her hands were shaking. Not from cold, the June sun was warm on her shoulders, but from the memories pressing against her chest like physical weight. The last time she'd walked through these doors, she'd been escorted out by Brent, the manager who'd barely looked at her while destroying her livelihood. She'd been powerless then, broken, watching her entire world collapse with no way to stop it. Today was different. Today, she wore a professional blazer and carried a briefcase. Today, she was Director Thorne of the Castellan Hope Foundation, here on official business. Today, she had power. But power didn't erase the fear. Patricia stood beside her, a steadying presence. "You don't have to do this, you know. I can handle the meeting." "No," Marin said, squaring her shoulders. "I need to do this." They'd come to propose a partnership. The foundation wanted to place social workers at assisted living facilities throughout Portland, providing support not just for residents, but for their families navigating the complex emotions and logistics of elder care. Cedar Grove was the first facility they were approaching, chosen deliberately. Marin needed to face this place, needed to prove to herself that she'd survived. The lobby looked exactly the same. Same floral wallpaper, same generic landscape paintings, same smell of cleaning products and overcooked vegetables. But the woman at the reception desk was new. Younger, nervous looking, probably making minimum wage like Marin had. "Can I help you?" she asked, her smile professional, but strained. "We have a meeting with the facility director," Patricia said smoothly. "Marin Thorne and Patricia Osai from the Castellan Hope Foundation." The receptionist checked her computer, nodded, and picked up the phone. While she called back to announce them, Marin's eyes drifted down the familiar hallway. Room 204, Mrs. Chen's room. Was she still there? Still asking for her eggs with exactly 3 shakes of pepper? Or had she been one of the residents who'd passed away in the 8 months since Marin had left? The not knowing hurt. The receptionist hung up. "Mr. Castellan will see you now. Conference room B down the hall on your left." Marin froze. "Dorian is here?" Patricia's eyes widened slightly. She hadn't known either. They exchanged glances, then headed down the hallway, Marin's heart pounding against her ribs. The conference room held 3 people. Dorian sat at the head of the table, perfectly composed in one of his expensive suits. A woman Marin didn't recognize sat to his right, probably the new facility director. And on his left, looking considerably less comfortable than the last time Marin had seen him, was Brent. The man who'd fired her. The man who'd looked through her like she was nothing while ending her employment with bureaucratic efficiency and zero compassion. Brent's face had gone pale. He was staring at Marin like he'd seen a ghost. Dorian stood, extending his hand. "Director Thorne, Ms. Osei, thank you for coming. Please sit." Marin shook his hand, her mind racing. This was a setup. Dorian had known Brent would be here, had arranged this deliberately. The question was why. The woman introduced herself as Helena Price, the new facility director who'd taken over 3 months ago when the previous director had been let go. "Mr. Castellan has been explaining your foundation's proposed partnership," Helena said, her tone professional and warm. "It sounds like an excellent program. We'd be honored to participate." Patricia launched into the details, how the social workers would be integrated, what services they'd provide, the training required for staff. Marin tried to focus on the presentation, but she kept feeling Brent's eyes on her. He looked sick, guilty, like he wanted to disappear through the floor. Good. When Patricia finished, Helena asked several thoughtful questions that suggested she actually cared about resident welfare, unlike the previous administration. Dorian answered most of them, his tone businesslike, but Marin noticed how he kept watching her, gauging her reactions. Finally, Helena smiled. "This all sounds wonderful. I'll have our legal team review the contract, but I don't anticipate any issues. Brent, do you have any questions about how this would impact your department?" Brent cleared his throat, his voice coming out rough. No questions." "Actually," Dorian said, his tone casual but his eyes sharp, "I do have one question for Mr. Foster. Marin, you used to work here, didn't you?" The room went very quiet. Marin felt every molecule of air pressing against her skin. "Yes," she said carefully. "I was a nurse's aide here for 3 years, until I was laid off 8 months ago." Dorian turned to Brent. "You were the one who terminated Ms. Thorne's employment, correct?" Brent's jaw worked. "Yes, but it was a budget decision. The company mandated that you fire your most dedicated employees while keeping newer, less experienced staff?" Dorian's voice was still calm, but there was steel underneath. "Interesting choice." Helena was frowning now, looking between Brent and Marin. "I wasn't aware. Brent, you told me the previous layoffs were based on seniority and performance metrics." "They were, Brent was sweating now. "Look, I was following corporate directives. I didn't have a choice." "There's always a choice," Marin said quietly, surprised by the steadiness of her own voice. "You could have fought for the people who actually cared about the residents. You could have explained that experience and dedication matter more than salary savings. But you took the easy path." She stood, placing both hands on the table, meeting Brent's eyes directly. "Do you know what happened to Mrs. Chen after I left? Or Mr. Okonkwo? Or Delilah?" Brent swallowed hard. "Mrs. Chen passed away 2 months ago. Mr. Okonkwo was moved to a different facility by his family. Delilah," his voice cracked slightly, "Delilah stopped eating. She's in the medical wing now." The words hit Marin like a physical blow. Delilah. The woman who'd held her hand at lunch, who'd had no family, who'd trusted Marin to see her, to care. Starving herself because the one person who'd made her feel human had disappeared without explanation. Tears burned behind Marin's eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Not here. Not now. Helena looked stricken. "I need to speak with you privately, Brent. Now." As Brent and Helena left the conference room, Marin sank back into her chair, her hands trembling. Dorian and Patricia sat in silence, giving her space to process. After a moment, Dorian spoke softly. "I bought Cedar Grove last month. Helena is my hire, someone I trust to run it properly. Brent was kept on temporarily until we could evaluate all the staff decisions made under previous management. Based on this conversation, I think his evaluation just concluded." Marin looked up at him. "You bought an entire assisted living facility?" I bought 3, actually. This one because I knew you had history here. The other 2 because they were equally mismanaged. We're going to fix them. Make them into places where residents are treated with dignity and where staff are valued for their dedication, not discarded for budget convenience. He paused. And I'd like you to visit Delilah. 10 minutes later, Marin stood outside room 209, her heart in her throat. Patricia had stayed in the conference room, understanding this was something Marin needed to do alone. The door was slightly ajar. Marin pushed it open quietly. Delilah lay in the hospital bed, smaller than Marin remembered, her skin papery and pale. But her eyes were open, staring at the ceiling with that same vacant expression Marin had seen on her mother's face near the end. The look of someone who'd already left, who was just waiting for their body to catch up. "Delilah?" Marin whispered. The old woman's head turned slowly. For a moment, there was no recognition. Then her eyes focused, widened, and filled with tears. "Marin? My Marin?" Marin crossed the room and took Delilah's hand, the same way she had hundreds of times before. "I'm here. I'm so sorry I left. I'm so sorry." "They said you weren't coming back," Delilah whispered, her grip surprisingly strong. "They said you'd moved away. I thought you'd forgotten about me." "Never," Marin said fiercely, tears streaming down her face now. "I could never forget about you. I was fired, Delilah. I didn't choose to leave. I would never have chosen to leave you." They sat together for an hour, Marin telling Delilah everything that had happened. The homelessness, the wallet, the foundation, the second chance. Delilah listened, her hand never releasing Marin's, her eyes clearing as connection and purpose filtered back in. When a nurse came to bring dinner, Delilah looked at the tray and said, "I'll eat, but only if Marin stays with me." Marin stayed. She cut Delilah's food into small pieces and told her stories and made her laugh. And when Delilah had eaten every bite, the first full meal she'd had in weeks, she looked at Marin with such pure love that it broke and healed Marin's heart simultaneously. "You came back," Delilah whispered. "You came back for me." "Always," Marin promised. "I'll always come back." And she meant it. For Delilah, for all the forgotten people, for everyone who needed someone to see them, she would always come back. 1 year after finding Dorian Castellan's wallet, Marin stood on a stage in front of 500 people and tried not to shake. The Portland Civic Center was packed for the Castellan Hope Foundation's first annual fundraising gala. Chandeliers cast golden light over tables where Portland's wealthiest citizens sat alongside formerly homeless individuals who had been transformed by the foundation's programs. It was deliberate mixing, Dorian's idea, his way of forcing the privileged to see the people they usually looked past. Marin wore a dress Patricia had helped her pick out, midnight blue and elegant. A far cry from the stained coat she'd worn the day she'd walked into Castellan Tower. Her hair was styled. Her shoes didn't hurt. She looked like she belonged on this stage, even though part of her still felt like an imposter. But then she caught sight of familiar faces in the crowd and remembered why she was here. Claudia sat at table 7 with her daughter, both of them smiling. Marcus and Keisha from the foundation team sat nearby, flanked by success stories they'd personally helped shepherd. And in the front row, in a wheelchair pushed by a new care aide Marin had personally hired, sat Delilah. Alive, thriving, here. Dorian finished his introduction speech, his voice carrying authority and warmth in equal measure. And so, it's my honor to introduce someone who's redefined what this foundation can be. Someone who's proven that lived experience combined with compassionate vision can change not just individual lives, but entire systems. Director Marin Thorne. Applause filled the hall. Marin approached the microphone, her prepared speech suddenly feeling inadequate. She'd written 3 drafts, each one trying to capture the magnitude of the year, the transformation, the impossible journey from that alley to this stage. But standing here now, looking out at hundreds of faces, watching her expectantly, all her careful words evaporated. She spoke from her heart instead. A year ago, I was homeless. I slept in doorways and alleys. I went days without food. I became invisible in a city that preferred not to see me. I lost my job, my home, my sense of self-worth. I lost everything except my mother's voice in my head, reminding me to choose right over easy, to maintain integrity even when survival seemed to require compromise. One day, I found a wallet containing $3,000. More money than I'd seen in months. Enough to change my immediate circumstances, to feed myself, to find temporary shelter. And I could have kept it. Probably should have kept it. No one would have known. Marin paused, letting the silence build. But I walked 7 miles to return it, because my mother taught me that doing the right thing matters more than convenience, more than survival. More than anything. She could see people leaning forward, engaged. This was the story Dorian had wanted her to tell, the inspiring narrative of honesty rewarded. But there was more to it than that. What I didn't know was that the wallet belonged to this man. She gestured to Dorian, who'd been looking for someone exactly like me. Not because I was special, but because I'd lived through the system we're trying to fix. Because I understood firsthand what it means to fall through the cracks. Her voice strengthened. This foundation has housed 217 people in the past year. We've reconnected 43 children with their parents. We've provided medical care to over 500 individuals who had no access to health care. We've placed 162 people in stable employment. The numbers landed like blows, each one representing a life changed, a family reunited, a second chance given. But those numbers don't tell the full story. They don't capture what it feels like to watch a mother hold her daughter again after months of separation. They don't show you the moment when someone who's been invisible for years looks in the mirror and sees a person worthy of respect staring back. They don't measure the restoration of dignity that happens when we treat people like humans first and statistics second. Marin's eyes found Delilah in the crowd. The old woman was crying, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue, but she was smiling too. One of my residents at Cedar Grove, a place I used to work before being laid off, stopped eating when I disappeared from her life. She'd given up, decided she wasn't worth the effort of survival. Today she's here, thriving, surrounded by people who see her value. She shifted her gaze across the room. Every person in this room has the power to do what Mr. Castellan did for me. You have the power to see the invisible, to create second chances, to build systems that catch people instead of discarding them. Marin gripped the podium, her knuckles white. But I need you to understand something crucial. Charity isn't enough. Feeling good about writing a check isn't enough. We need you to change how you see homeless people. They're not lazy or broken or somehow less deserving than anyone else in this room. They're people who had the floor drop out from under them and found no safety net waiting. They're teachers who lost everything to medical debt. Veterans with PTSD the system failed. Teenagers who aged out of foster care with nowhere to go. Single mothers escaping domestic violence. People with mental illness who can't access treatment. People who made one wrong choice and discovered our society doesn't believe in second chances. Her voice rose, passionate and fierce. They're human beings. And if we're going to fix this crisis, we need to start treating them that way. That means advocating for affordable housing and living wages and accessible health care and mental health services and addiction treatment. It means changing laws and policies and budgets. It means making uncomfortable people comfortable and comfortable people uncomfortable. The room had gone silent. Maren could feel the tension, the challenge she was laying at the feet of the wealthy and powerful. Tonight, we're asking for donations. And yes, we need your money. But more than that, we need your voices. Your influence, your willingness to look at the people society has deemed expendable and say no more. We need you to be as uncomfortable with homelessness as the people experiencing it are. We need you to care enough to act. Maren stepped back from the podium, her heart racing. She'd probably gone off script in a way that would make some donors uncomfortable. Probably said things that were too political, too challenging, too raw. But looking at Dorian, she saw him stand and begin to applaud. Then Claudia stood. Then Delilah's aide helped her stand. Then the entire room was on its feet, applause thundering through the space. And Maren realized she hadn't alienated anyone. She'd inspired them. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of handshakes and promises and donation pledges that exceeded the foundation's wildest projections. By the end of the night, they'd raised $18 million. Enough to open 4 new locations, enough to expand every program, enough to help thousands more people. But the moment Maren would remember most came after the gala ended, when the crowds had dispersed and she stood outside the Civic Center catching her breath. A woman approached, middle-aged, well-dressed, with kind eyes that looked suspiciously wet. "Ms. Thorne, I just wanted to thank you." The woman's voice shook. "My son, he's been on the street for 2 years. Addiction, mental illness. I've tried everything, but I didn't know where to turn. After hearing you speak tonight, I have hope again. Real hope." Maren took the woman's hands. "What's your son's name?" "Daniel. Daniel Chen." Chen. Like Mrs. Chen, whose eggs needed exactly 3 shakes of pepper, like Marcus on her team. Like the interconnected web of humanity that Maren was beginning to understand, stretched far wider than she'd ever imagined. "Bring Daniel to the foundation tomorrow," Maren said. "I'll meet with him personally. I can't promise miracles, but I can promise that we'll see him, really see him, and we'll do everything in our power to help." The woman's tears spilled over. "Thank you, God. Thank you." After she left, Maren stood alone under the Portland night sky, looking up at stars barely visible through the city's light pollution. She thought about the alley where she'd found Dorian's wallet, about the choice she'd made to return it instead of keeping it, about every moment since then that had led to this one. Her mother had been right. Choosing right over easy had opened doors money never could. But it was more than that. Choosing integrity, choosing compassion, choosing to see people's humanity, even when society had decided they were invisible. Those choices had given Maren something more valuable than wealth. They'd given her purpose, meaning a life worth living. "Your mother would be proud." Dorian's voice came from behind her. Maren turned to find him standing a few feet away, hands in his pockets, watching her with an expression that was almost fatherly. "She would," Maren agreed, her throat tight. "She'd say I finally figured out what matters." "What's that?" "People. Connection. Using whatever power we have to lift others up instead of leaving them behind." She smiled, surprising herself. She'd also probably tell me I talked too long and got too political in my speech. Dorian laughed. It was perfect. You challenged them, made them uncomfortable. That's exactly what they needed. He paused, his expression growing serious. You know, when I dropped that wallet, I was testing for honesty. I expected to find someone decent, someone with integrity. What I didn't expect was to find someone who would transform everything. I didn't transform anything, Marin protested. You created the foundation. You provided the resources. I provided money and structure, Dorian interrupted. You provided heart, soul, the lived experience that turned a good idea into something that actually works. You're the reason we're succeeding, Marin. Never doubt that. Marin felt tears prick her eyes, but blinked them back. So, what happens now? Now? Dorian's smile widened. Now we expand. 4 new locations, like I mentioned. But also, I want to create a training program. Take the model we've built here and teach it to other cities, other foundations, other organizations trying to address homelessness. And I want you to lead it. The magnitude of what he was offering hit her like a wave. You want me to replicate this nationally? Internationally, eventually. Marin, what we've built here proves that homelessness isn't an unsolvable problem. It's a failure of will and resources and vision. But we've shown it can be fixed. Now, we need to show the world. He extended his hand. What do you say, Director Thorne? Ready to change the world? Marin looked at his outstretched hand, looked past him at the Civic Center where hundreds of people had pledged their support, looked up at the stars, barely visible through light and pollution, fighting to be seen anyway. She thought about her mother, about Delilah and Claudia and Daniel Chen and every person still sleeping in doorways tonight, waiting for someone to see them. She thought about the girl she'd been a year ago, desperate and invisible, and the woman she'd become. Powerful not because of wealth or status, but because she'd learned that true strength comes from lifting others up. Marin took Dorian's hand. Let's change the world. Integrity opens doors money never could. Compassion builds bridges wealth never will. And choosing to see the invisible makes you unstoppable. This is more than a story. It's a reminder that doing the right thing, even when it costs you everything, is the only thing that truly matters. Drop a comment below telling me, what choice would you make? Keep the wallet or return it? Be honest. And wherever you are in the world, remember, someone needs you to see them today. Don't look away.